Stubby Pringles Christmas. High on the mountainside by the little line cabin in the crisp, clean dusk of evening, Stubby Pringle swings into saddle. He has shape of bear in the dimness, bundled thick against cold. Double socks, crowd-scarred boots. Other chaps with hair out cover patched corduroy pants. Fleece-lined jacket with wear of winters on it, bulges body, and heavy gloves blunt fingers. Two gay red bandanas folded together, fattened throat under chin. Battered hat is pulled down to sit on ears, and inside pocket of jacket are rabbit skin earmuffs he can put to use if he needs them. Stubby Pringle swings up into saddle. He looks out and down over worlds of snow and ice and tree and rock. He spreads arms wide and they embrace whole ranges of hills. He stretches tall and hat brushes stars in the sky. He is Stubby Pringle, cowhound of the Triple X, and this is his night to howl. He is Stubby Pringle, son of the wild jackass, and he is heading for the Christmas dance at the schoolhouse in the valley. Stubby Pringle swings up, and his horse stands like a rock. This is the pride of his string, flop-eared, ewe-necked, cat-hipped strawberry roan that looks like it should have died weeks ago, that has iron rods for bones and nitroglycerin for blood, and can go from here to doomsday with nothing more than handfuls of snow for water, and tufts of winter-cured bunchgrass snatched between drifts for food. It stands like rock. It knows the folly of trying to unseat Stubby. It wastes no energy in futile explosions. It knows that 27 miles of hard winter going are foreordained for this evening, and 27 more of harder uphill return by morning. It has done this before. It is saving the dynamite under its hide for the destiny of a true cow pony, which is to take its rider where he wants to go, and bring him back again. Stubby Pringle sits his saddle and grins into the cold, and distance and feature full of festivity. Join me in a look at what he can see of him despite the bundling and frosty breath vapor that soon will hang icicles on his nose. Those are the careless, haphazard, scrambled features under the low hat brim, about as handsome as a blue boar's snout. Not much fuzz yet on his chin. Why shucks, he's just a boy. Don't make that mistake, though. His 20th birthday is still 6 weeks away. Don't make the mistake Hatch Handley made last summer, when he thought this was young, unseasoned stuff and took to ragged Stubby and wound up with ears pinned back and upper lip split and nose smashed flat, and a whole hymn of him dumped in the rain barrel. Stubby has been taking care of himself since he was orphaned at 13. Stubby has been doing man's work since he was 15. Do you think Hard Rock Harper of the Triple X would have anything but an all-around, hard-proved hand up here at the farthest winterline campsiting, old Jack Hanlon? Tough as hard-bitten old cowman. Stubby Pringle slips glove under rump to wipe frost from the saddle. No sense letting it melt into patches of corduroy pants. He slaps right saddle side bow. It contains a burlap bag wrapped around a 2-pound box of candy, of fancy chocolates with variegated interiors he acquired 2 months ago and has kept hidden from old Jake. He slapped left side saddlebag. It holds a burlap bag wrapped around a paper parcel that contains a close-folded piece of dress goods and a roll of pink ribbon. Interesting items, yes. They are ammunition for the campaign he has in mind to soften the affections of whichever female of the night among those of the schoolhouse appeals to him and seems most susceptible. Stubby Pringle settles himself firmly into the saddle. He is just another far-scattered, poorly paid, patch-clothed cowhands that inhabit these parts, and likely marks and smells of his calling have not all been scrubbed away. He knows that, but this is his night to howl. He is Stubby Pringle, true-begotten son of the wildest jackass, and he has been riding line through hell and high water and winter storms for 2 months without a break, and he has done his share of the work, and more than his share because old Jake is getting along and slowing some, but this is his night to stomp floorboards till schoolhouse shakes, and kick heels up to lanterns above, and whirl a willing female till she is dizzy enough to see past patched clothes to the man inside them. He wriggles toes deep into stirrups and settles himself firmly in the saddle. "I could have et them chocolates," says old Jake from the cabin doorway. "They wasn't hid good, not good at all." "And me beat like a drum," says Stubby, "and wrung out like a dirty dish rag." "By who?" says old Jake. "By a young'un like you. I'd have tied you and not before you knew what was if'n you tried. You're a dang blighted young fool," he says. "A ding busted, dang blighted fool. Riding out a night like this, if'n it is Christmas Eve," he says. "But if I was your age again, I reckon I'd be doing it too." He cackles like an old rooster. "Ha ha! Squeeze one of 'em for me," he says, and he steps back inside and closes the door. Stubby Pringle is alone out there in the darkening dusk, alone with flop-eared, ewe-necked, cat-hipped roan that can go from the last trumpet call under him with the cold of wicked winter wind around him, with the 27 miles of snow dump distance ahead of him. "Wahoo!" he yells. "Skip to my loo!" he shouts. "Do-si-do and round about." He lifts reins and roan sighs and lifts feet. At easy warming up amble, they drop over the edge and benchland where the cabin snugs into tall pines and on down the great black expanse of mountainside. Stubby Pringle, spurs a jingle, jogs upslope through crusted snow. The roan warmed through moves strong and steady under him. Line cabin and line work are far forgotten things back and up the mighty mass of mountain. He is Stubby Pringle, rooting, tooting, hard-working, hard-playing cowhand of the Triple X, heading for the Christmas dance at the schoolhouse in the valley. He tops out on one of the lower ridges. He pulls rein to give the roan a breather. He brushes an icicle off his nose. He leans forward and reaches to brush several more off sidebars of old bit in the brittle. He straightens tall. Far ahead, over top of the last and lowest ridge, on into the valley he can see tiny specks of glowing allure that are schoolhouse windows. Light and gaiety and good liquor and fluttering skirts are there. "Ah-hoo!" he yells. "Gals and women and grandmothers," he shouts. "Raise your skirts and start a-skipping, I'm a-comin'." He slaps spurs to roan. It leaps like mountain lion, out and down, full into hard gallop, down slope, rushing, reckless, off crusted drifts and ice-coasted bush. He is Stubby Pringle. Born with spurs on, nursed on tarantula juice, weaned on rawhide, at home in the saddle with a hurricane in shape of a horse that can race to outer edge of eternity and back, heading down for hijinks 2 months overdue. He is 10 feet tall and the horse is gigantic, with wings iron-boned and dynamite-fueled, soaring 40-foot leaps down the flank of the whitened wonder of a winter world. They slow at the bottom. They stop. They look up at the rise of the last low ridge ahead. The roan paws frozen ground and snorts twin plumes of frosty vapor. Stubby reaches around to pull down the fleece-lined jacket that he has worked up a bit. His Pat's right saddlebag. Pat's left saddlebag. He lifts reins to soar up and over lowest low ridge. "Hold it, Stubby. What is that?" "Off to the right." He listens. He has ears that can catch a snitch of a mouse chewing on a chunk of bacon rind behind the log wall of his bunk. He hears sound of axe striking wood. What kind of dong-bong and ding-busted ding-blinded fool will be chopping wood on a night like this and on Christmas Eve and with a dance underway at the schoolhouse in the valley? What kind of chopping is this, anyway? Uneven in rhythm, feeble in stroke? Trust Stubby Pringle, who has chopped enough wood for a cook stove and fireplace to fill a long freight train, to know how an axe should be handled. There, that does it. That whopping sound can only mean that the blade has hit an angle and bounced away without hitting. Some dong-bong, ding-busted, dang-blinded fool is going to be cutting off some of his own toes. He pulls the roan around to the right. He is Stubby Pringle, born to tune of ballin' bulls and blattin' calves, Branded at birth, cowman raised and cowman to the marrow, and no true cowman rides on without stopping to check anything strange on the range. Roan chomps on bit, annoyed at interruption. It remembers who is in saddle. It sighs and obeys. They move quietly in dark of night past bowls of trees, jet black against dim grayness of crusted snow on ground. Light shows faintly ahead. Lantern light through a small oiled paper window. Yes, of course, just where it had been for 8 months now. The Henderson place. Man and woman and small girl and waist-high boy. Homesteaders. Not even fools, homesteaders. Worse than that. Out of their minds altogether. All of them. Out here anyway. Betting the government they can stave off starving for 5 years in exchange for 160 acres of land. Land that just might be able to support even 7 jackrabbits and 2 coyotes and 9 rattlesnakes and maybe all 4 thin steers to a whole section. In a good year. Homesteaders. Always out of almost everything. Money and food and tools and smiles and joy of living. Everything. Except maybe hope and stubborn endurance. Stubby Pringle nudges the reluctant roan along. In patched light from the windowed by a tall, tangled pile of dead tree branches, he sees a woman. Her face is gray and pinched and tired. An old stocking cap is pulled down on her head. Ragged man's jacket bumps over a long, woolsy dress and clogs arms as she tries to swing an axe into a good-sized branch on the ground. Whopping sound, an axe bounces and barely misses an ankle. "Quit that," says Stubby, sharp. He swings the roan in close. He looks down at her. She drops axe and backs away, frightened. She is ready to bolt into 2-room bark slab shack. She looks up. She sees the haphazard scrambled features under a low hat brim, and are crinkled in what could be a grin. She relaxes some, hand on door latch. "Ma'am," says Stubby, "you trying to cripple yourself?" She just stares at him. "Where's your man?" "Inside. He's sick." "Bad?" "Was. The doctor that was here this morning thinks he'll be all right now. Only he's all mighty weak, all wobbly. Sleeps most of the time." "Sleeps," says Stubby, indignant, "when there's wood to be chopped." "He's all mighty tired. Even before he was too sick, wore out. Only a while ago, couldn't even get his pants on, just fell on the floor." "And you ain't tired?" "Ain't got time to be tired. Not that I got to do." Stubby Pringle looks off past dark bowls of trees at the last low ridge top that hides valley and schoolhouse. "I reckon I could spare a bit of time," he says. "Likely they ain't much more'n started yet." He looks again at the woman, sees gray pinched face, sees cold shivering under bumpy jacket. "Ma'am, go on and get here and get warm. I'll just chop you a bit of wood." Roan stands with dropping reins, ground-tied, disgusted. It shakes head to send icicles tinkling from bit and bridle. Stopped in midst of epic run, wind-eating, mile-gobbling, iron-boned, and dynamite-fueled. And for what? For silly chore of chopping. 15 feet away, Stubby Pringle chops wood. Moon is rising over a last low ridge top, and its light filtered through trees shines on leaping blade. He is Stubby Pringle, moonstruck maverick of the Triple X, born with axe in hands, with strength of strokes and muscles, weaned on whetstone, fed on cordwood, raised to fell a whole forest. He is 10 feet tall, and axe is enormous in moonlight, and chips fly like stormflakes of snow, and blade slices through branches thick as his arm, through logs thick as thigh. He leans axe against a stump and spreads arms wide as he scoops up whole cords at a time, and strides to the door and kicks it open. Both corners of front room by fireplace are piled full now, floor to ceiling, good wood, stout wood, seasoned wood, wood enough for a whole wicked winter week. Chore done and done right, Stubby looks around him. Fire is burning bright and well fed, working on warmth. Man lies on big old bed along opposite wall, blanket over eyes, face gray pale, snoring long and slow. Woman fusses over something with the stove. Stubby steps the doorway to back room, pulls aside hanging cloth.